Welcome back to the channel. As usual, this is Wes, and today we're going to talk a little bit about the current DC restructure. As some of you may or may not know, I'm actually a huge DC Comics fan. It's definitely one of my favorite publishers. I buy more DC Comics than any other publisher by far. As of late, they've either killed off a lot of the great titles like Hal Jordan and the Green Lantern Corps, or changed them to such a degree that they're almost unrecognizable, like the Amnesia story arc in Nightwing, killing off Wally West for Flash, removing the Outlaws from Red Hood and the Outlaws, bunch of stuff like that. And where they've really done a lot of damage is on the Trinity, the original big three for DC Comics: Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman. Brian Michael Bendis has pretty much single-handedly destroyed both of the Superman titles, and Batman's basically an introspective wanker due to the events of the Batman wedding issue, and the less said about G. Willow Wilson on Wonder Woman, the better. So as you can imagine, when I woke up today and saw this on comicbook.com, my heart skipped a beat a bit. I was very excited. DC lays off staff as part of restructure. Plans return to its roots. Man, I was excited. Finally, Dan Didio, the architect of the destruction of the DC Universe, was fired. And likely, Brian Michael Bendis, who got such a large contract, he probably is unfireable, is going to be placed into a nice little corner where he can do as little destruction to the actual universe, and hopefully there's going to be a new writer on Batman. But these were all just a dream. None of them would actually come to pass. And as we get into the article, so they explain that 7 of 240 employees were let go. Most of the layoffs affect the executive level of Comics Publishing Division, and rumors suggest that publishers Dan Didio and Jim Lee could be exiting the company. And now, my feel spots started tingling. I was really excited. I don't really want to see Jim Lee leave the company, but Dan Didio has to go. And if Jim Lee's the collateral damage to make it happen, then so be it. But the Hollywood Reporter decided to dash all of my hopes and dreams and say the THR report indicates that's not true, with both Lee and Didio continuing playing viral. That's got to mean vital, but I guess it's a Freudian slip by comicbook.com. Viral roles in DC Comics executive level. Senior VP of Sales, Trade Marketing, John Cunningham. Senior VP Art Director, Mark Chiarello. And VP of Consumer Marketing, Eddie Scannell, have all departed the company. The layoffs were announced in a memo to employees from Pam Lifford, the president of Warner Brothers Global Brands and Experiences. I believe that she's the one that just replaced Diane Nelson, longtime president of Warner Brothers Comics. The statement mentions the company plans to shift DC's focus back toward what made them a fan-favorite creator of superhero content. And I quote, "Today has been a challenging day. We have made organizational changes across DC that we believe will help strengthen and evolve the division for future success. With these changes come difficult decisions that we take very seriously. We recognize and appreciate that all of our employees have made considerable contributions to our business and that it is difficult to lose colleagues, many of whom have been here for a long time and have made an important impact on DC. We thank them for their hard work and dedication to DC. As always, we are committed to taking care of our employees and will be as thoughtful as possible with those who are impacted by these changes." And here's confirmation of my worst fears from Pam Lifford herself. Together with Dan and Jim, the executive team, we have spent time assessing DC's business, as well as the comic book publishing landscape. DC is going back to its roots of delivering epic stories with our world-class characters, stories, and brands. Being a premier house of storytelling will never go out of style, and we intend to ultimately superserve our existing fans, while providing new compelling content that engages and excites even more fans around the globe. Rest assured, the direct market will remain at the heart of our business and will continue to be one of our greatest strengths. Now, I'll come out and say I applaud DC for restructuring and at least making some attempt to address the evolving nature of the comics book industry, but they really missed an opportunity to make DC better, to go in a much better direction, to go back to the roots by getting rid of Dan Didio, by relegating Bendis to a place where he's more appropriate out of the main DC continuity, as well as putting someone better on Batman who could serve the fans better. Because believe it or not, even Batman sales are sinking at this point. And some of you may have seen this article yesterday on bleedingcool.com. DC Comics selling almost half as many comics a month as it used to. This title deliberately mischaracterizes the new direction that DC Comics is going. And if you go to Comics Artist Pro Secrets with Ethan Van Sciver, he had a much better breakdown than I'm going to give right now. Mine's going to be real short. But he goes into it in much more depth. But this title is half fake news. And it starts out, "We've noted how DC Comics has canceled Titans, Damage and Scooby Apocalypse. This comes after canceling almost all the DC Age of Heroes line, the disappearance of the solicited Batman and the Outsiders and the other history of the DC Universe, the non-solicitation of promised Black Label comics, and the dropping of many of the twice-monthly schedules, and the effects are notable. And they mentioned that in December, DC actually published 15 single issues compared to Marvel's 90, and this other paragraph states, now the beginning of the Wonder Comics line at DC may have helped those numbers, as have Bendis' creator-owned books, but looking at the April solicits, there are 54 single issues listed, and 3 of them are final issues. It's interesting that they bring up that they canceled the New Age of Hero lines. The sales on those have not been good. There have been a couple titles that are over 20,000. I believe the Terrifics is that one. I don't even think Silencer, the other title that's still around, I think it's like at 12,000. But if you look at those Bendis creator-owned books, the Jinx World titles, Scarlet and Cover, and I don't even care. I wouldn't read any of those books. You couldn't pay me. But they're all at like 10,000. They sell absolute buttholes. Nobody wants the books. Nobody's interested in those books. No one reads them. DC books should not be selling 10,000 to the retailers. Because the Bendis run at DC so far has been an abject failure, and he has definitely hurt their bottom line. I have no idea why they're continuing on with the Bendis creator-owned books. It makes no sense with the changes that they're doing that they would still keep these. And I don't know why they're keeping most of the Vertigo line. And there's a little mention here about how they're trying to sell through Walmart and Target and other big brands like that. But we're going to concentrate on this bottom line here. Comics ship DC Comics 52. 52 has been the destruction of DC Comics in the past, i.e. the new 52 line that was launched several years ago. This almost ended DC. This put several retailers out of business, closed local comic shops because people bailed on DC because of the new 52 in droves, which was Dan Didio's baby. This was his initiative. It was his idea to wipe out the DC universe as people knew it and as people loved it. He wanted to bring in a more Marvel-like universe that was full of dread and very dreary and not hopeful and utterly pessimistic and downright dismal. And there have been a lot of signs lately that DC is moving back to the new 52. You see what's happened with the Superman line. Those have all been destroyed. He's basically destroyed Nightwing. He's killed off Flash, Arsenal. And let's not even get into the Heroes in Crisis series that's just been utterly dreadful and is the current anchor weighing down the DC universe. So as some of you may or may not know, Dan Didio does not actually like the DC universe. He's been going out of his way to change it for a very long time. I believe this picture here, his hit list here, was released in an article in 2015. And there will be links to all the articles that I've talked about in this one here down below, as well as a couple of links to other YouTube videos with more information on what I'm talking about. But we can see here on Dan Didio's hit list, number 1, kill the Superman marriage. What kind of sick individual wants to kill someone else's marriage? How twisted and deranged do you have to be that that's the one thing you want to kill in the DC universe first is Superman's marriage? And we'll go down, as you can see, Shazam. Now, Shazam just got relaunched by Jeff Johns, but if you go and read that, is Shazam special anymore? No, because there isn't one Shazam. Billy Batson's not special. He has decided to share his power with his foster brothers and sisters. It's a nice sentiment, but what makes Shazam so special anymore? What makes any of the DC characters special anymore? Why don't we just give all their powers away? I bet we'll end up learning that Teen Lantern is just borrowing Jessica Cruz's power ring. Because it's not a big deal to be named a Green Lantern and be chosen to serve in the Lantern Corps. You just can hand that stuff out. These powers aren't given to people that are deserving of them because they know they'll wield them correctly. We can just give all the powers away. If you have the power Shazam, give it to your buddy. If you have a power ring, loan it to him for the weekend. Being a hero isn't important in the DC universe. And this is all because of Dan Didio's direction. As we go down farther on the list, you see one that says, kill all non-used Young Justice. All the heroes in Young Justice are teenagers. Why would you put out a directive for your creators to kill off all the teenage characters? That's fucking weird. And then at the bottom of the big circle on him, Nightwing. Now he might not have been able to kill off Nightwing, but he's all but done that. In Batman issue 55, Nightwing was shot in the head. He now has amnesia, has no want to ever be Nightwing again, and he doesn't consider himself to be Dick Grayson anymore. It has basically ruined the entire Nightwing series, and it seems to have drove Ben Percy out of DC Comics. So when you see a hit list like this and he wants to kill off marriage, he wants to kill off teenagers, he wants to kill a long-standing character like Nightwing, you can see why we get some shit like Heroes in Crisis. Now I think Tom King sucks as a writer, but the real kill shot to the DC Universe was bringing in Brian Michael Bendis from Marvel Comics. Oh my god, has this ever backfired in DC's face. There have been multiple articles stating how DC is unimpressed with his sales. They basically promoted his coming over to DC for 6 months straight, but most smart fans knew this wasn't a harbinger of good things to come. This was an omen to the destruction of the DC Universe, and it's been worse than we could have ever imagined. Following Dan Didio's lead and killing off the Superman marriage was bad enough, but what he's done to John Kent has been totally unforgivable. In the latest issue of Superman, Superman number 7, Jonathan Kent finally returns to Earth after going off on grand adventures with his crazy grandfather, Jor-El. And what do we get? Oh, John Kent's no longer 10. He's 17 now. So now the best thing about Superman in the DC Rebirth era, seeing Superman be a father, we'll never get to see that again, because his son's no longer a child. Clark Kent, one of the greatest fictional characters in American history, who saved the world and the universe countless times, has been deemed unworthy to actually get to raise his son like a normal father. And of course this is all being set up so Jonathan Kent will end up being some type of evil character. And just this week, in the sneak previews of DC Comics, we get this wonderful page on the upcoming Wonder Comics Wonder Twins series. Now this series is aimed at teenagers. And what do we get in this wonderful sneak preview? A goddamn space orgy. That's right. A teen-marketed comic book with a space orgy in it. So let's read this. Unless there's a thunderstorm. Whenever there's a thunderstorm, Exxorian adults will drop whatever they're doing and start tearing off their clothes. Bow, chicka, bow, bow. Driven mad with thunderlust, Exxorians writhe together, bonded into a single rhythm with the night. And of course we see this panel and there's what appear to be humans getting it on. Humans getting on with butterfly people. That looks like a man with bat wings. Looks like there's a couple of monkeys in the foreground that are about to get some business going on as well. And it continues. Men become women, women become animals, and the night throbs with their pleasure. So, not only is this an orgy, but it's talking about gender fluidity, bestiality, and all other sorts of things that teenagers really shouldn't be reading about in comic books. What the hell is wrong with editorial at DC that this is even being published and marketed to teenagers? Where are your standards, DC? Now, everyone knows Marvel is the market share leader, but DC has been the unequivocal standard of excellence in comics for the last 2 years, ever since Rebirth happened. But no, they're giving it all away for what? So Brian Michael Bendis can write his weird teenage space sex orgy romp book that he wanted? What the hell does this even have to do with the Wonder Twins? I get that this is a fucking joke, but it's not funny. It's weird. Why the hell is this being published? And Pam Lifford, since you're doing this restructure, and you probably knew this was coming out, why the hell haven't you fired these people? Why is Bendis still there? Why is Didio still there? Why are you continuing to sink your company? It seems like one of the overriding directives from Dan Didio and the other executives is to sink all of their valuable intellectual properties. Superman comics have never been worse than they are right now. Batman is a depressed twat. Wonder Woman is being written by a pretentious douchebag. Hopefully this is just the beginning of the restructure and there's more information as they parse down the amount of books that they put out to up the quality for the customers. But they have a lot of work to do. But the good news is, it's not too late. DC has a ton of talent. DC actually has all the people they would ever need in their creative staff to fix all this shit. They've got Jeff Johns, probably the best writer of his generation. They've got Robert Venditti, one of the best writers going today. They still have Jerkins. They still have Tomasi. I imagine they still have Dan Abnett somewhere. Hopefully he's not gone for good now that Titans has been canceled. But that's beside the point. They have the artists. That's never been a problem. But they have the writing talent as well. They're just not using them correctly. They're putting their worst, shittiest writers in the most important positions. So hopefully this restructure over the next 6 months, I imagine it's not all going to come out at once, will address all these issues and get DC back to where it should have been and where it was just 2 years ago when DC Rebirth was announced and launched and saved the DC Universe. Of course, these are just my thoughts and opinions. If you disagree or agree, please let me know in the comments down below. You can also always contact me on Twitter at Wes_from_TC to talk about this video or just comics in general. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a like. Subscribe to the channel for more reviews and commentary. Ring the bell for future notifications. And with that, Salamat po, and I'm out.